Well, are Australian men really male, chauvinistic pigs? My next guest is currently here in Australia to find out just that. Please welcome Marina Moskvina. Welcome to Australia and welcome to the show. Now, you're a member of the Soviet Women's Committee.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah, and you're here to have a look at the Australian male. You'll have to try and forget the Australian male who's sitting beside you. I'm not too sure whether he is the prime example of what you've seen so far. So what have you seen so far?
You know, I just using my chance, to see what is going here in this country, because in our country we say it's better to see once than to listen hundreds. So we just spent here a few days, and so many people, so many men really, because I work for whole my life, among the women, so it's very pretty to be acquainted with the men, at least in your country.
Mm-hmm. So what's the reason to do this, though?
This is really an exchange visit. This is just the time, when we develop our contacts with other countries, and even if to speak about the women's exchange, And we received guests yesterday who participated in our bilateral seminar, all together with some other women from Pacific Ocean and Middle Asian countries. And now this is the time for us to come here. And here is according to the invitation of a number of women parliamentarians of your country and a number of public organizations.
Mm-hmm. How long are you here for?
For 10 days, the whole visit. We spent a few days in Sydney and now the second day here in Melbourne.
Before you came to Australia, what sort of dreams did you have about this country? What did you expect to find?
Bert, your question is not to me, because, I'm a specialist of your country, if it's possible to say. I dealt with women's organization of your country really for 17 years. Sometimes, excuse me, I may correct your people, when they gave me some statistics about your country.
What about the average Russian? Does he know very much about Australia?
Yes, quite a lot. Quite a lot. Even the children, they know that kangaroo you'll see only here, koala, are only here, you have the best zoo park, the best weather, so we know quite a lot.
But they don't expect kangaroos to be jumping down the main street of our cities, though.
Yes.
They don't expect that,
no,
do they?
No.
What about the Russian male? Is he a chauvinist?
It depends. It depends, I had 2 marriages, My first Russian husband, was a chauvinist. I changed him, So now I had the second, who is much better. But we'll see.
Is the divorce rate, which is something you don't think of for some reason with the Soviet Union, is the divorce rate very high in Russia?
It is, and in the majority of divorces, women are the initiators of the divorce.
How come?
So
they want to rid themselves of the chauvinist?
Yes, yes.
And
we're not satisfied.
Is it easy?
It is easy. It is quite easy. But there is one thing, which we're not satisfied with our men. They're less educated compared to the women.
Why is this?
Yes, women make up 62% of all the specialists with higher education and secondary education in our country.
But why is this?
Why is this? I think we're more capable.
Wow. I can't speak on behalf of Russian men, but do you feel the same way about the Australian males and females from what you've seen?
Yes, that the majority of the students of the university, even in your country, are women.
Yes, but you see, most of the men are out working so they can provide the money so they can go to the, or is that too chauvinistic?
I think now, the most important, problem for us not to be equal with you, if to speak about the leadership in your country and in our country too, just, to promote you, to give birth to the children, and then we'll win the position.
So it's a war, is it?
Absolutely.
Marina, behind the Iron Curtain, as we seem to continue to say, has life changed very much in the last 10 years?
Yes, of course.
In what ways?
In different. Even, if 2 years ago you asked me such questions, if there is a male chauvinism in your country, I say you're not. Of course not, but it is. You have to understand, if to speak seriously, that the new role of the women in the socialist society created quite a lot of new problems. And for some period in our time, we just didn't speak about it openly. And now we speak about it, and it helps us, to solve all these problems, But in order to understand our country now in the right way, You have to understand, you know, that if any person is educated for quite a long period of time not to speak directly about all his problems, you know, it is impossible, you know, to do it just one day when you're allowed to speak openly, you know. When we say, you know, that everybody now can speak about all the problems openly, everybody can, but not everybody can do it physically. You understand what I mean?
Yes, but Marina, what would happen if you really fell in love with Australia and you want to stay here? How difficult would that be for you, or would you have to defect?
You know, no, really, it is no problem. There is no problem, you know. People are allowed now, you know, to go abroad, and we don't fill in so many documents as it was previously, you know. I am traveling quite a lot abroad, you know, so my last visit abroad was just a few months ago. But even this time, you know, when I left our international airport in Moscow, you know, at least, you know, half of the documents, you know, were dismissed to fill in. So it's very good. I think my only problem, you know, I think there is no possibility for Australian men to be in love with me now.
Well, I don't know. If we got our still photographer, just over here for a second, if you would, just come in on camera and just get a little closer to Max, will you? I want one particular shot to be taken.
Just here or there?
Nice and close. Stay where you are. Nice and close. Right. Smiling into the camera. Put your arm around her, Max. Arm around. Right. Okay. Now, right into the camera. Yeah. Now, give her your look 32A. One more shot, please. Now, what I want you to do, Marina, I want you to send those shots to your husband and say, I've met this most wonderful Australian. Marina, thanks for being with us. Have a nice day here, won't you? We're back with you after this break, and Dr. David Smith joins us.